I would like to announce something on this show today. Are you guys ready? I would like to announce fun. We're bringing fun back. That's what we're doing, okay? Listen, there's been a dearth of stories. Let's keep it real, okay? The healthcare, the finance. Okay, I got you. Listen, let's have fun, okay? Let's do a couple of stories that are going to crack us up, okay? Now, they might be political, they might be non-political, but finally today we got some stuff that I'm excited about. All right, number one. Now, I was distraught to find out that Rush Limbaugh is a big fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I'm a big fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's a damn shame, you know, to know that we're rooting for the same team. But hey, you know, God bless, they call it America, right? And people with different opinions are allowed to root for the same team, of course, right? But we found out something far, far more devastating today. Now, I happen to be a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan, but the legendary producer, J.R. Jackson, happens to be a big St. Louis Rams fan. And guess what we found out today? Rush Limbaugh very seriously considering buying the St. Louis Rams. J.R. Jackson, I mean, what you going to do?
I think I heard of this little quick blurb like 2 days ago. And I've actually put a lot of thought behind it. I mean, you don't want to bail on a team when they're as bad as my Rams are right now. Especially since, you know, as recently as under 10 years ago, we were the best team in the world.
Yeah,
well, yeah, I mean, of course, it was obvious. So then I was like, oh, there's no question I'd ever leave this team. You know, highs and lows, that's how you go through your team. I'm not lying to you, I've seriously considered. I was like, okay, how, and what kind of thought press can I go about rooting for another team and absolutely hating this team? But I came to a conclusion.
Oh, you did? Because I'm very curious about this. Because I don't know how I'd go on it. Because, look, you know, Chargers are my second favorite team. I always feel uncomfortable saying that because it seems a little goofy. But they are. When I was a kid, I loved Dan Fouts and Eric Coryell, and I loved that whole team, right? But one of the biggest Republican douchebags owns it, Spanos. And we did a story here where he gives by far and away to most of the politicians out of anybody in the NFL, and it goes almost exclusively to Republicans. So he's right up the GOP's ass. So now I'm looking at the Chargers, and I'm like, if they succeed, Spanos succeeds. But, you know, it's still removed. It's the, you know, the owner, and I don't like the coach either. So I'm a little torn on it. But there's a difference between a guy who contributes to Republicans. All right, you disagree, right? And Rush Limbaugh owning the team. What you gonna do? What's your conclusion,
Well,
JR?
see, that's the thing. There's a lot of things you can think about with that, and I have. But okay, now I'm sure there's a lot of idiots and douchebags that run these teams and are Republicans and stuff like that. But we know what this guy thinks.
That's true.
We know the way he is. So now, because okay, fine, he succeeds already in his talk show.
He does.
So I mean, if he succeeds with owning the Rams, then what can I do? It's my team, man.
You're gonna stick with it?
I have to. I mean, it's the team and not the owner, really. Because I mean, teams always change ownership. Not always, but a lot of times. You can't bail on that because of that.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's going to be very hard, I understand. But actually, you know what? My first belief is that it's not going to happen, first of all. I'm going to be hopeful. There's a little hope left. Then after that, if it happens, you know.
All right. Here's my thought on it. Okay. Number one, if it's, you know, a team that I've, you know, lost a little touch with. Like, you know, when I was a kid, I loved the Yankees, right? But the Yankees, it's like rooting for Goldman Sachs now, right? It's just, they buy everybody. It's ridiculous. They're kind of the evil empire. I get it, right? But I still root for them when the playoffs are around. Of course, I'm a Yankees fan. Now, if they were owned by, you know, Rupert Murdoch or Roger Ailes or Rush Limbaugh, drop them like a bad habit. Okay, I'm gone. Lakers I used to like when I was a kid, but, you know, Kobe's iffy anyway. I'm willing to dismiss all that. But when you get to the core, when you get to the Steelers, I mean, they're owned by the perfect family, the Rooney family. I mean, they give to the community. They're awesome, right? It helps in 18 different ways. You switch that to Sean Hannity. Or Karl Rove owns the Steelers. Oh, no. Oh, that's such a gut punch. I'd have to think about that for months, man, to try to decide what to do on it. And then, you know what we do? We start a little TYT foundation, gather some money to go ahead and buy the Steelers if that were to happen. Now, the Rams aren't worthy of that effort. So good luck to you, Rush. You'll buy it. You know, JR, what you should do, you should spearhead a St. Louis effort because, you know, JR grew up around St. Louis. Because the Packers are community-owned, right? Packers are an outright socialist team owned by the community in Green Bay and in Milwaukee, right? And they are nonprofit. They don't make profit. They take all the money and pour it back into the team, right? It's an amazing structure. Maybe you do that in St. Louis instead of having Rush buy it. Think about it.
I don't think it would work. I mean, I don't know.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
the type of community and what type of city Green Bay is, but I don't think that would fly in St. Louis.
No, I don't think so either.
I still think it would. But you know what? It's a childhood thing. They've been my team forever. It's hard to disconnect. It really is.
All right. There you look. You got a decision there. You got to respect that. Hey, look, and final third on it is, it's America, man. We're allowed to disagree, and we're allowed to have different teams. Man, Rush, that's a tough one, but it is what it is, and hopefully we won't get sports too involved in that stuff, okay? Anyway, but fun to discuss. So, now we move forward. You want to talk about fun? Look, I wasn't going to start with this, but Louis made me do it. Louis Gohmert, he's a Republican from Texas. And they're talking about don't ask, don't tell. That's the debate they're having about the military. Should they continue that policy or not? He randomly brings Matthew Shepard and the hate crimes legislation into this. And he's against the hate crimes legislation. Now, I really believe that's a perfectly valid opinion to have. You can say, hey, look, you already have crimes. And he talked about this in a different part of his speech where he said, look, the guys who dragged Robert Byrd, for example, or is it James Byrd? Sorry, Byrd in Texas, when they dragged him, he said, look, those guys should get the death penalty. I'm not saying they should get off light, right? Et cetera. So the beginning part of his speech I was kind of okay with, right? I think Robert Byrd's all right and no one's dragged him anyway. Okay, he's got some health issues, but that's not among them. Anyway, so, and I was thinking, all right, not so bad, Louis, not so bad. I could live with it. It's a little random that you've dived into that topic, and I don't fully agree with you on the topic, but all right, right? But then he gave this part of the speech, and I thought, Louis, what are you doing? What are you doing? All right, now get a load of the argument that Louis Gohmert from Texas, I love this guy, is going to make against hate crimes legislation. It's going to get unique in a couple of different ways. Let's listen in.
We fought over this hate crimes bill in committee and on the floor, and over. We made amendments, offered amendments, because we could see that the definition of sexual orientation is wide open to all kinds of interpretation. And someday, some court somewhere will say, you know what, sexual orientation means exactly what those words mean. If you're oriented, I hope it doesn't offend, but this is part of the law. It's laws in most states, or has been certainly in many states. If you're oriented toward animals, bestiality, then you know that's not something that could be held against you, or any bias be held against you for that, which means you'd have to strike any laws against bestiality. If you're oriented toward corpses, toward children, you know, there are all kinds of perversions, what most of us would call perversions. Some would say it sounds like fun, but most of us would say we're perversions. And there have been laws against them. And this bill says whatever you're oriented towards sexually, that cannot be a source of bias against someone. Well, that's interesting. When you lose morality in a nation,
this is an interesting twist now. Listen to this.
Create economic instability, leading to economic chaos. And when you have economic chaos, it is tragic, but people have always been willing to give up their liberties, their freedoms, in order to gain economic stability. It happened in 1920s and 30s Germany. They gave up their liberties to gain economic stability, and they got a little guy with a mustache who was the ultimate hate monger. And this is scary stuff we're doing here when we take away what has traditionally been an important aspect of moral teaching in America.
You need to police that mustache. All right, did you get that last part? That was awesome, man. I did a chain here. Hate crimes legislation, trying to prevent hate crimes, leads to losing liberty, leads to economic chaos, leads to the need for economic stability, leads to Hitler with a funny mustache. So trying to prevent hate crimes creates Nazis. That's unique, man. You got to give Gohmert that one. He went around in a circle and came out in a way I did not expect. And then it comes to a man with a funny mustache. That's what happens when you try to regulate hate crimes. And then the first part, look, I've been through the bestiality and the children thing 100 times, comparing that to homosexuals to that. So I'm bored by that. But the part I liked was, hey, some people are into corpses. You know, some people like that. Now you found that kind of fun. Okay, but the most of that, that's a perversion. God, I love these guys, man. God bless America. You could be, I don't mean to offend here, but you could be oriented in a lot of different ways. Okay, now you could be into the animals, and some people find that fun. And so you could be oriented towards the corpses, you know what I'm saying? No, I don't really know what you're saying. Okay, come on, Louis. Come on. Louis. Oh. I don't know why, but Louis really cracked me up today. Gohmert. His name is Gohmert. That's awesome. Okay. The only problem is if people take him seriously. Look, there's good arguments against hate crimes legislation. Don't go down this path. This is madness. But what am I? I'm talking to the Republicans. They're not going to listen. All right. Now, here's another fun story. So a couple of days ago, it was Sonia Sotomayor's first day on the court. Okay, in terms of actually hearing cases and interacting with the lawyers and asking questions, etc. Right? Within the first day, she asked more questions than Clarence Thomas has done in several years. That's awesome. Now the thing is, to be fair, it's not that hard a task to pull off because Clarence Thomas, according to the Associated Press, as of February of 2008, had gone 2 solid years and 144 cases without asking a single question. That is an amazing fact. Clarence is like, you know what? I'm going to sit this one out. Yeah, you guys go ahead. Go. Like I'm going to change my vote, right? All of a sudden I'm going to vote lib. He's like, I don't think so. I don't need to hear any arguments, blah, 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 questions, nuance. Please. Look, you're going to vote the lib way. I'm going to vote the conservative way, and let's move on with it. Hey, some people can respect that. But the reality is, those court cases have such an amazing amount of nuance. Sometimes there's not a conservative or liberal way to vote. Sometimes it's a property rights issue, and nobody knows what the conservative or liberal position on that is, or sometimes it flips. And sometimes it doesn't have anything to do with politics, and it's a financial issue as it relates to regulation. I mean, there's a million things that go in front of that court. And not one question pops into your head? Well, you know what it is. It's that he doesn't want to be embarrassed. I mean, look, let's keep it real, right? If he asks a question and it comes off as kind of a dumb question, people are going to be like, oh, Clarence finally asked a question, and that one was stupid. So he just keeps mum, right? But I like Sonia Sotomayor. She comes out guns blazing. She's like, you know what? I got a couple of things on my mind here that I'd like to inquire about. And she's not shy. She's confident. And she's in there roaring. Asked just as many questions as the Chief Justice did. So, and look, don't put what Clarence Thomas does on all the conservatives. Many of the conservatives ask many interesting and nuanced questions, and then they dive into the materials. But not Clarence. He's not having it. So if she goes a whole week, she'll probably ask more questions than Thomas has in his entire career. For me, if I was on the Supreme Court and I'm sitting there hearing these interesting cases, to not ask any questions, it's really an amazing concept. But he's a different guy. He's got a different philosophy. And some people could be in favor of it, as I explained. All right. So, now, speaking of taking the fight to them, you guys want to see something surprising? Shep Smith. There he goes again. I mean, here's a guy that has on occasion surprised people. I mean, obviously he's an anchor on Fox News. That's why it's surprising. But now we're about to officially call him a moderate. I mean, he's definitely not a conservative. I mean, he went ballistic after Hurricane Katrina, did dates all the way back then. He did the famous, "We don't torture," which was awesome, okay? And he's done this on a number of occasions. And now he's going to go after a Republican senator on the public option. And look at the defense he has of the public option. And look at how he won't let the, did I say Congressman? The senator. He won't let the Republican senator get away with it. Okay, watch this. Let Shep go to work here.
Why would we not want a public option?
Well, but let's take a look at what we do know. My concern is a public, or what I consider a government takeover of health care,
right.
is going to make it very challenging. But it's not a government takeover,
Senator. That's not fair, and we both know it. It's not a government takeover because what it would be is a government option. If you have insurance now and you like it, you can keep it. If you want the government option, a government-run, paid for by those who buy it, government-run option to try to keep costs down. That's not a government takeover, if we're being fair, is it, Senator?
Well,
over the last 10 years, health care costs in America have skyrocketed. Regular folks cannot afford it. So they tax the system by not getting preventative medicine. They go to the emergency room and are at a last case, and we all end up paying for it. As the costs have gone up, the insurance industry's profits, on average, have gone up more than 350%. And it's the insurance companies which have paid and have contributed to senators and congressmen on both sides of the aisle to the point where now we can't get what all concerned on Capitol Hill seem to believe, and what more than 60% of Americans say they support, is a public option. This has been an enormous win for the healthcare industry. That is an unquestioned fact. But I wonder what happens for the American people when we come out with legislation now which requires everyone to have health care insurance, or many more people, but does not give a public option. Therefore, millions more people will have to buy insurance from the very corporations that are overcharging us and whose profits have gone up 350% in the last 10 years.
You go get them.
It seems like we, the people, are the ones who are getting the shaft here.
That's damn right.
And we're not even allowing the people of America to read the bill or know what it costs. You're absolutely right. I'm not going to defend the insurance companies. I've been fighting them for the last 25 years.
Every vote against the public option is a vote for the insurance companies, sir.
No, it's not. No, I disagree with you.
How can you disagree with that? It is the public option which would keep costs in check, which would keep prices in check, which would stop the big corporations, which have made 350% improvements in their profits over the last 10 years. A public option would stop it. What else would stop it?
I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all, and that's why they can't even get the 60 votes as Senator Baucus had for it. All of the studies in Washington show that Washington is incapable of dealing with the waste and the fraud and the abuse in the system. And you're going to see more of that. The more government takeover you have, the more Washington runs the system, the worse it's going to be for the American people.
I want to make clear, this wouldn't be Washington running the system, Senator. It would be a government-run plan paid for by the people who sign up for the plan. Yes. Paid for by the people who sign up for the plan, a not-for-profit to try to keep health care costs down. And that's what, in recent polls, more than 60% of Americans say they favor.
Everybody, 100% of Americans want to keep the cost down, and so do I.
Yeah, right. That's why I voted against every cost containment measure there is that's been proposed. I love when Shep brings his voice down. He's like, "This is not a government takeover." That you know he's getting serious when he does that. He made great points. Not a government takeover. That's a false claim. 60% of Americans support the public option. It's if you don't have a public option, it's an enormous win for the healthcare insurance industry. They're overcharging us. And then Barroso claims, "Oh no, I'm with you." Yeah, oh man, those healthcare industry guys. I've been fighting them all. Look, come on, Barroso, stop it! You're killing me, man. You're killing me. Of course you're not. And then Shep challenges him on it and does a nice job with it. And then of course, when cornered, the only thing he could do as the senator says, well, the Democrats can't get 60 votes for it. Ha, 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 ha. And look, if the Democrats don't get 60 votes for it, they get to say that for the rest of the time. So the Democrats better get their act in motion. But really nicely done by Shep. Okay. Much respect, all of a sudden, in the primetime lineup, will soon be replaced by Glenn Beck. Glenn's at 5 o'clock. He wants to move up. Uh-oh. Think about it. Let's see what happens. Man, I tell you what, if they move Shep down, then, we don't even need to have that debate. Everybody knows where Fox News stands. But you know what? They screwed up. They gave Shep Smith a big contract, a long contract. Now let's see what happens as he continues to be moderate on air. But if they let it happen, you know what? Then you got to give credit to Fox. If they let Shep keep doing this for years on end, all right, they're throwing a little balance in there. Am I not merciful? Am I not merciful? Young Turks. I must be in a good mood, man, because I'm loving these songs. I'm not sure I generally love these songs, but I'm thinking like, JR's nailing it today, man. He's feeling my mood. All right. So, you know what's, okay, first of all, I got to tell you about a couple of things that are coming up a little bit later, okay? We actually, for the first time, have a compromise on the public option that I can agree to. So that might be a big breakthrough. Uh-oh. Okay, but we're going to save that for later in the show, okay? And then we're going to talk to an author on the book. It's not a big deal. You know the guy reading his book right now? Barack Obama. Okay, that's about the 8th anniversary of Afghanistan, okay? And that's today. Today's the 8th anniversary. Sad day. And we will talk about that a little bit later in the show. But let's do a topic we don't do that often, gun control. Now, Mayor Bloomberg in New York launched an undercover investigation of gun shows. Now, he wrote about it as well, and he said, you might be asking why. Why is this mayor of New York involved in gun shows in places like Tennessee and Nevada? And they went to out-of-state gun shows. He said because 89% of the guns used in crimes in New York City come from out of state. Now, and it is exceedingly simple to buy guns at gun shows without any background checks. So if we don't get on top of this massive loophole, we're going to continue to have illegal arms poured in to criminals that wind up affecting our city. So fair point. So let's take a look at their undercover investigation video of what really happens at gun shows. Here we go.
Every weekend in almost every state in America, gun shows attract thousands of hunters, collectors, and gun enthusiasts. But they're not the only ones. Criminals are attracted to gun shows because of the loophole in federal law that allows them to avoid background checks. Federal law requires licensed firearms dealers to run background checks. But private unlicensed sellers who call themselves collectors don't have to run these checks. This gap in the law allows criminals to buy guns at gun shows without fear of detection. That's the gun show loophole, and it's one of the primary ways that illegal guns end up on our streets. According to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, 30% of illegally trafficked guns are connected to gun shows. To uncover this dangerous situation, New York City launched an investigation of illegal sales at gun shows. A team of experienced investigators using hidden cameras bought guns at 7 gun shows in 3 states.
You're not one of those licensed guys, are you?
No. Cash and carry. Because we're not a dealer, this is a private party sale.
500 even?
While the law allows collectors and occasional sellers to sell guns without background checks, the investigation found that these private sellers are actually doing a very lucrative business. In some cases, selling hundreds of guns.
You're not one of those licensed guys, right?
We keep a nice selection. We have nice automatics. We got modern plastic guns, Glocks, we have Springfield.
You sell a lot of these? Do you?
A lot.
Do you sell many of them? That's okay.
348.
How many?
348 since this time last year.
Even though so-called private sellers can sell guns without background checks, the law is clear. If a private seller has reason to believe the buyer can't pass a background check, it is illegal to go through with the sale.
I don't need your address.
So no background check?
Nothing. Just show me that you're from Ohio.
Okay. Well, that's good about background check because I probably couldn't pass one.
I don't care.
Huh?
All I got to do is demand you show me your license.
So you don't care about the background check,
Nope.
right?
Nope.
All right.
Because I wouldn't pass either, bud.
Is that right?
Unlike the seller you just saw, some private sellers abide by this law and will stop the sale.
You do background checks?
No.
Well, that's good, because I probably couldn't pass one.
Once you say that, then I'm kind of obligated not to. If you're basically telling me that you wouldn't pass a background check, then I wouldn't be allowed to.
Unfortunately, most of the private sellers approached by our investigators did not stop the sale. 19 out of 30 private sellers sold guns to investigators even when they said they probably couldn't pass a background check. The results confirm the worst. Criminals can easily avoid background checks and buy guns at gun shows. To stop this criminal activity and to make it harder for violent felons to obtain guns, the answer is simple. Anyone who buys a gun at a gun show should go through a background check. In America, felons and other dangerous people aren't allowed to buy guns. The only way to enforce this law is to close the gun show loophole.
You know, we live in an absolutely crazy country. I mean, we need licenses for everything. I mean, it almost seems like we need a license to chew gum. The other day, I realized that if I wanted to fish in my local pond back home in New Jersey, that I had to get a license for it. That blew me away. I mean, maybe because I grew up partly when I was a young kid in Turkey, and people didn't need a damn license for anything. You throw the fishing rod, and back then we didn't even have a rod. We had this little wire that we fished with in the sea, and you fish. With what you do, right? But there's one tiny exception to that. You can buy any damn weapon you like with no background check, no nothing, no idea. Okay, just show me you live in Ohio. You live in Ohio? Great. And what would happen if you didn't live in Ohio? That's your one qualification for that one guy. He says, oh, don't worry about it, buddy. I wouldn't pass one neither. Come on, man. That's nuts, guys. We just can't have people buying guns left and right. So if the 19 terrorists who did 9/11 didn't need guns and they didn't use guns, but if they wanted to, they could just walk into a gun show and be like, I wouldn't pass a background check. I'm a terrorist. But hand me a gun. Well, hey, give me a Glock. Give me 3. And they could get it. They could walk away with it. I mean, look, what we have here is gun fundamentalism, NRA fundamentalism. It's run amok. This is way too much. We got to reel this back. You're in favor of gun rights? Okay, no problem, okay? But we got to have some sort of process before you could buy a deadly weapon, okay? And it's all we're asking for is a simple background check. Are you a felon? Are you insane? Is there some reason why we shouldn't give you this gun? Come on, now that can't be too much to ask for. J.R. Jackson.
On top of those questions, do you know what you're doing? Do you know how to handle it? Do you know what happens when you pull this trigger? Does it move? Can you hold it? Should we give it to a 90-pound woman maybe with a big semi-automatic rifle? Whatever. I don't know much about guns, but I know they move when you shoot them. Certain ones. A lot. Just little things like that. We have to learn how to drive before we get behind the wheel because we can run people over if you don't hit the gas right or whatever you're doing wrong or understand the rules of the road. It's very simple, and it all makes sense. And it's not a takeover society if we tell 16-year-olds to learn how to drive before we give them their license. No. The thing I wrote to you when I sent this to you, private sellers, I'm just seeing parallels. These private sellers are at gun shows. Now, the reason we don't think, oh, none of these good old boys, they're all legal. They want their guns to shoot, they're hunting and everything like that. Fine. But when we think of illegal firearms in this country, let's be honest. Just like when we think of pot smokers in this country, we think of minorities. We think of black folks, Latinos, smoking blunts, sitting on the couch, not doing anything. And it's just, and if people don't want to admit it, it's not straightforward. It's what it is. You can be upset about that all you want, but it's true. Now, private sellers are the same as some dude on the street selling guns or, selling guns for whatever price they want to. But we're thinking, oh, that only happens in the hood. There's only illegal guns in the hood. Now, if you see a black dude rolling down the street in not the best neighborhood, you're not going to go, yeah, he probably has a license for that. You're going to assume that he's a criminal. Mm-hmm. Now, we see, obviously, they're selling to people who wouldn't pass a background check, who obviously say to him, as the investigator said, I probably wouldn't pass. And it's just a laughing matter. If there's a black dude in there saying, hey, so you got any automatics? Oh, no, dog. I wouldn't pass no background check. I got $400, though. I hate that the rules don't always apply, and I'm making a lot of assumptions, but let's think about it.
Now, here's the thing. With some of those unscrupulous guys, like the guy who sold the 348 and doesn't give a damn, and he wouldn't pass a background check, and if a guy came in and says, look, dog, I wouldn't pass no background check. You know what I'm using it for. He's probably going to go ahead and sell it to him anyway. Okay? Now, having said that, you know, how do people react to this story, right? Based on the stereotypes that JR is talking about. And if they see a white guy going, I wouldn't pass no background check, a lot of people might think, oh, good old boy. Been in trouble since the day he was born. Okay, been in trouble with the law since the day he was born. Hey, you see a guy saying, oh, you know, I love the dog that he used. Dog, I'm going to take this back to the hood. Yeah, then people have a different conception. Yeah? Any last thoughts?
No. I mean, it's no. I almost hate making those kind of points because I don't like to make assumptions, but if we just think about it, it makes sense. It's the way it works. Nobody really thinks. Like I was saying before, when people bring in guns to some of the town hall meetings, and especially the one that Obama was going to be at, we're like, oh, you know, nobody's going to use those guns because they think the only people that have a monopoly over guns are conservatives. A lot of people have guns in the country, and they can believe whatever the hell they want.
Right.
And they can come from wherever they want to. So they think that, oh, if you believe in what we believe in, you can have a gun. But everybody else, no, give me those liberals. They're tree huggers. They don't have time to carry a gun.
Right, and but you know the other thing is that what would a good conservative right winger do any kind of harm with a weapon anyway? Like Tim McVeigh, he didn't do any kind of harm, did he? Now he had a different kind of weapon, but he's just a good old boy. That blows up federal buildings and kills hundreds of people. But anyway, all right. Look, we had some assumptions in there, but but those are the assumptions that we see in society and that we're trying to combat. But any way you slice it, white, black, yeller, doesn't matter, okay? We can't be selling these guns at these gun shows with absolutely no rules attached, okay? Anybody can walk in off the street and be like, give me a gun. I find that absolutely mental, okay? All right, now, you want to talk about a racial component? Let's have a little bit of fun. So you remember the New York Post ran that chimp cartoon from Sean Delanis, and it had cops shooting a monkey that had passed the stimulus bill, and people were concerned. You know, Obama had just passed the stimulus bill. Didn't take too much imagination to put two and two together. Now, keep in mind at the time there was a story about a chimp that had gone nuts, and then the cops had to shoot it. Okay, so they put those two things together in that story, and of course the New York Post claimed, oh no, it was just innocent, and other people didn't see it that way. So there's an update on that story. Somebody's finally been fired over it. And, you know, it's good to see the New York Post take action like this, being a little responsible. They're owned by Rupert Murdoch, the same guy who owns Fox News. But, you know, Murdoch actually came in and gave a speech at the New York Post about how they need to have more racial diversity so that could lead to a better understanding with the community, et cetera, right? So they're on this. So who did they fire? Of course, they fired the one person who had complained about the cartoon, Sandra Guzman, who also happens to be their sole minority editor. So, out she goes. They're like, oh, yeah. Has it settled down yet? Yeah, okay, nobody's paying attention? Yeah. Let's fire that troublemaker over there. Okay, the one that complained about the cartoon? Yeah. Sandra, your work is done here. Okay, out you go. Right now, they have a total of all of their editorial staff of 0 minorities. So how'd that speech go, Murdoch, about, we're going to, tell you what, we're going to hire more minorities right after we fire all of them. Come on. But anybody who works in the corporate world knows exactly how this works, man. You question your bosses, if you're 100% right or 1,000,000% right, it doesn't matter at all. In fact, you're more likely to get fired. And one day when no one's looking, they're like, oh, Sandra, by the way, I got something for you. That's a pink slip. You're a goner. So there she goes. Somebody got fired. It wasn't the right person. Who's surprised? Anybody surprised? All right. Now, one more note in this segment here. We do have good news, I suppose, on irresponsible conservative talk show hosts getting their comeuppance to some degree. Later, we're going to do Michael Moore on Sean Hannity. That was fascinating. But I just want to tell you real quick, 19 more advertisers have ditched the Glenn Beck show. I mean, this is now a tsunami. This is Unbelievable. 2 British companies just announced they're pulling their ads from the UK broadcast of Fox News Channel, but not just from Glenn Beck's show, but because of Glenn Beck, from the entire channel, which hurts much more because then they can't spread that money around to their other shows. So this, advertiser boycott of Glenn Beck is getting pretty serious, and it'll be interesting to see how that, what reaction he has to it, what reaction Fox News has to it. But right now with the advertisers, he's in a little bit of trouble here. He's really. Check it. Young Turks. TRT. Jing and Anna. All right, what's up, Anna?
All right, I discovered a video of an adorable kid in Mumbai. His name is Ravi, and he's a street seller, okay? Since he's a street seller, he has learned how to sell his grandmother's peacock feathers in 10 different languages.
That's awesome.
And he's such a charismatic young man. I like him. I would definitely buy some feathers from him.
Oh, well, it's hard to resist him. Now, this was from a while back. This was about from 7 years ago or
Right.
so?
He's 15 now.
But he started when he was 8.
Yes.
Right? And a guy took video of him for a while back from a couple of years ago, and it's cute as a dickens. Let's just watch. They're calling him the lingo kid.
German, Arabic,
Can
Irani,
you
Russian.
show me?
Which language?
French.
Oh. C'est la M des ponts, c'est la 50 pays, c'est joli. C'est la M des ponts, c'est la 1 euro, c'est joli, c'est la 50 pays. 50 pays, c'est la M des ponts. C'est joli, right?
Okay, yeah.
After Italian.
Italian.
Asta bello, paone, ce l'ho 50 rupi a uno, sto bonito paone. Poi non bonito varato, mira te che sto uno paone, 50 rupi. Sta bello. After German, palm tree da wunderbar. 75 schön, schön, wunderbar. 75 1 euro. After Arabi, lala thaus kardi kupana chan, ada 50. Ada san baga talat miya 50. After Irani.
I love the eyes and the hand motion.
Karib thaus panjo rupiah. Ada 31 panjo, ada panjo. After Russian, Maulin, Pishat Rupi, ada Ruski Raska Punargi.
It's amazing.
Pishat Rupi, ada 30 Pishat.
And he speaks really accurately. You could tell that he doesn't have a weird accent when he's speaking these languages.
Ironically, his only accent's in English a little bit.
Kuno mini na takai korewanu gojurupine. Korewanu gojurupine.
That's Japanese.
Korewanu
Right.
haku gojune. Sayonara ne.
How did you learn all this stuff?
I are selling every tourist coming because every tourist coming the here. Every country people coming because I are selling every little every language. 5, 6 talking language every language because I selling.
What about Arabic?
Arabi, Baba Thaus in the Arabi people here so many coming, so many ranches and coming Arabi, Irani.
Can you speak Arabic?
Arabi, yeah, Lala Thaus kardi chan Baba. Kamsin, ada talat miya kamsin, ada kamsin. Ada miya kamsin. Ada chan Baba Thaus. Ada kamsin.
That's really good.
After 1 week, there's this hanging garden. You know why I call this hanging garden?
No, right.
Inside in the water tank, the garden, 30 million gallons.
All right, it's done now. And he has answers for everything. And he said, look, I stopped going to school because I learned 10 different languages out here.
Right.
In school, they teach you one language.
Right.
Weak sauce.
Yeah. No, it's amazing, and it's really unfortunate because of his circumstances. I mean, he's selling stuff on the street in Mumbai. If he were given the opportunity to become something in life, if he had the opportunity to get great education and do whatever he wanted to do with himself, I mean, he could have done anything. He's so intelligent.
Yeah, and he's a very charming kid, too.
Yeah.
What I loved most is that when he goes into the different languages, he goes into the cultural, hand motions.
The gestures,
oh, Baba, whether it's Italian doing this, and the Arabic oh. And then when he's talking, regularly. Now he's still speaking English, not his native language, but he gets more Indian hand gestures. It's funny. I never noticed Indian hand gestures until I started listening to Russell Peters, who's a comedian.
Right.
And I noticed that Indians do this with their hands when they're talking. Okay, like, oh yeah, we could do that. How you say, And I realized, I got into this whole thing. I had this epiphany the other day, literally 3-4 days ago. Because like I told you, my place is full of Indians, right? They're like, oh, right? Whereas Turks are when their hand motions are like
very sharp.
Yeah, very sharp. Whereas Indians are like, we can negotiate, And it's a cultural thing, and it's fascinating.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that kid has them perfect.
Yeah, he's got it all down. But, I really wish, of course, that he'd have stayed in school because, they might not teach you as many languages, etc. But you get an education, you're going to get a better job, etc., etc. I mean, obviously, a really bright kid. I wish his family would be like, all right, you know what, Peacock Brothers, okay, that was cute while it lasted. Let's get your ass in school because there's some great schools in India. You can move on up, and next thing you know, you could be, an entrepreneur. You could do 100 different things.
But every once in a while, maybe people should see someone who naturally learns something like that. And I don't know what kind of job to be translator. You can work in who knows what other different kinds of international things you can do.
You could work in the UN.
You know?
Okay, and then next thing you know, you're in New York, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you can do 100 different things. That's why education is the key that opens all doors. They got to get them in school right away, man. It's just drives me crazy to see a talented kid like that not in school.
Yeah, but we also, as a society, need to realize sometimes people have natural talents and learn things, and just because there's not a piece of paper behind it doesn't mean that they're unworthy of a job.
Oh no, I agree with that, and that's a great point, Jr. And Anna agrees with you too. But so I hope people don't discriminate and not hire him because he doesn't have formal education, etc. Up until this point. But I'm just saying that if he'd had that education, and he had that piece of paper, it's much, much easier to get things done for him. That's all, and then look, and in some jobs you just flat out need the education. If you're going to be an engineer or you're going to be a computer programmer, well, you got to learn that. There's no way around it, doctor, whatever it might be. So, I know now all of a sudden, I want to go and adopt a kid and be like, not literally, but be like, all right, kid, this is what we're going to do.
Right.
You're smart. We're going to take advantage of this. Hey, JR, why don't we get him as part of the TYT team? Okay. Should TYT Nation adopt him? You bring the lingo kid in here. Next thing you know, he's doing all the senators.
Oh, God.
He's doing...
impersonating all of them?
Yeah. Who's the guy we did today? Gohmert? Louis Gohmert? He's like, then there's the corpses.
Oh, God.
All right, anyway. Let's move forward.
Okay. Tom DeLay has been struck with karma. He has.
That's your interpretation.
And it's awesome. It is my interpretation, and it is the God-given truth. I'm kidding. All right, so Tom DeLay, of course, has been on Dancing with the Stars. He just recently did the Samba with his partner Cheryl. But it turns out that he has quit because he has stress fractures in both his feet. Wah.
I like that. Wah. Look, as I see every clip of him on there, I agree with you more, Anna, that the audience cheers for him, they're all like buddy with him, yeah, you're such a good sport. And he is being a good sport there, you have to be fair, right? But at the same time, I know all the terrible things he did and how he, led this country onto the precipice of a cliff. And then now everybody's like, oh, he's dancing, we like him. Right. And they have no idea the terrible legislation he passed through, et cetera.
Right.
And how, he opened the doors to the Christian right and the corporate lobbyists who ripped us off, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a little frustrating. But you know what? You got to hand it to him. Turns out it was kind of a savvy PR move.
It was totally a savvy PR move. Most Americans don't know what he did. They don't know how corrupt he was and what a terrible person he was, They just see him dancing and they're like, oh, yeah, that Tom DeLay guy, he was good. I liked him. Yay. Screw Tom DeLay.
Now, he might come back for the finale and dance, the Texas two-step.
Right.
Get it, he's from Texas. Yeah, we're all looking forward to it.
Right.
But anyway, we never, at least I don't, hope that anybody gets injured, so I feel bad about that part. I don't think Anna does.
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little. Okay, well, there you have it. All right, what's next?
All right, Anna Nicole Smith was conspiring to kill Pierce Marshall, who was the son of J. Howard Marshall, the old man that she married.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate, but it's so irrelevant at this point. His or her ex-boyfriend came out and said, yeah, she wanted me to kill him.
Yeah, it made me think two things. One, you lose a tremendous amount of sympathy in hindsight for Anna Nicole Smith if she was just as much of a dirtbag as anybody that she was associating with, and she's trying to figure out how to kill the son of her late husband so she can get more money, and she's promising her boyfriend at the time, oh, I'll cut you in on the action as long as you kill him, right? That's terrible. Now, if you believe him, right?
Right.
She's not here to speak for herself, right? And then the second thing I thought is, I wonder if someone else was putting her up to it. You know,
I don't think someone else was putting it up. If this is true, I think that she definitely did it because she wanted it. I mean, remember, when she was going through that court case, her number one problem, number one obstacle was Pierce Marshall. I'm sure that she was just sick of him standing in the way. So I could see how it could be true. But also, Anna Nicole Smith was always high on pills and drugs, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that her ex-boyfriend, by the way, his name is Mark Hatton.
And that's the picture you just saw.
Right. He said every time that she would talk to him, she was really high on drugs. So
now this guy's got legal issues of his own, so you know, don't take his word for it. If he's right, then Anna Nicole Smith was obviously an enormous dirtbag as well. So that's unfortunate. But you know what? Both Pierce Marshall and Anna Nicole Smith are dead now, so we're gonna move on.
okay, we have a cop who was beating up a special education student. This is crazy. The student in Chicago apparently didn't have his shirt tucked in, and the police officer on campus asked him to tuck in his shirt, and when he was about to do it, the cop started attacking him. So we have footage of it.
Look, this is another one of those cop cases where you're like, this guy joined the force so he can kick somebody's ass, right? And he's looking for the tiniest bit of excuse. And here he got it from an untucked shirt. Now get a load of how bad he slams this kid. Let's watch.
A special needs student was walking down the hall in school. The next, he says he was thrown against the lockers, then to the ground by a police officer. What happened? You're about to see the video for yourself. 2 investigator Dave Savini has the story of a painful lesson.
Security cameras are about to capture the beating of this 15-year-old special education student by a police officer.
So he was shouting at you and he was swearing at you?
Yeah.
Marshawn Pitts says the officer started by verbally abusing him because his shirt wasn't tucked in.
I was tucking my shirt in.
But it's what happens next after the officer puts down his coffee that had Marshawn Pitts worried for his life.
It was just like, boom.
He says he was blindsided by the officer, thrown into lockers, and struck repeatedly.
Where did he hit you?
He hit me like right here, and boom.
Watch as he gets slammed to the ground, his face smashed into the floor.
It still has a bump.
Right here.
His nose was broken.
Were you bleeding? Did you know it was your face?
All this was like all on the outside. My mouth was busted.
Violent and unnecessary treatment, he says, considering he was attending the Academy for Learning in Dalton for students like him with special education needs. When he was younger, he suffered a brain injury and now has a learning disability.
So this school was for students with special needs? And they were supposed to help you and understand your situation?
Yeah, but instead I got beaten on by the police.
The officer was in his face because he didn't have his shirt tucked in.
Ed Mansky is Marshawn's attorney.
And that's the officer put in that school to protect these kids. And instead of doing that, this officer is literally assaulting this kid.
That's a big officer, too.
The officer in question was a Dalton police officer, and the hold he puts Marshawn in can be a dangerous one.
He's on top of this
Right.
young man, okay?
Right.
That's called a face-down takedown.
Yes.
This type of physical restraint has killed students, says Zena Nadic from Equip for Equality, a legal advocacy group that fights for the rights of people with disabilities.
It's called a face-down takedown.
A face-down takedown.
Takedown, and kids often, and adults, die because they can't breathe.
This government accounting office report was released in May, just one day before the officer's use of the hold on Marshawn. The GAO study found face-down takedowns led to at least 20 deaths nationwide. Currently, 8 states prohibit the use of this hold. Illinois is not one of them.
So we don't actually know how common these incidents are, and that's outrageous.
I couldn't breathe.
Were you begging him to stop?
Yeah, I was like, let me up.
He's getting a beating, and he's getting a beating on an issue that has nothing to do with danger. It has to do with dress code.
All right, and no one responded when they asked them for a comment. Look, I get a couple things from this. Some unfortunately funny and some terrible, obviously. The funny part is when the guy puts down the coffee. I mean, he's about to hand this vicious beating to a kid who totally didn't deserve it, right? And he's like, hold on, let me just put down my coffee. And he's like, wow, sick them, right? And then I love the way the kid said, I got beaten on by the police.
I know. I kind of smirked a little at that part.
Yeah, when he said
but he said a police.
Oh,
that's why
even better. Got beaten by a police. Now the kid seems perfectly fine, but what the hell do I know? I don't know.
Right.
But he's like, he didn't seem slow or anything like that. but that means nothing. Obviously, you could still have trouble learning, etc. But the bottom line is, this is a dress code. Okay, you don't beat someone up like that over a dress code. Now that gets to the serious issue. Okay, the cop did this because he thought, because of his general attitude, that I could do that to these people. Look, I'm keeping it real, okay? And I can get away with it. And we do it all the time, and it doesn't have anything to do with the dress code. It doesn't have anything to do with anything. This is what we do, okay? Now, if he's walking through a school in Beverly Hills, you think he's going to do that to a student?
No, of course not. I mean, and that's just a given. That's common knowledge at this point. Everyone knows that.
And look, it doesn't even have to be a race thing, okay? It's a class thing,
Yes.
right? In poor neighborhoods, whether they're black, Latino, or it could be rural, it could be anything. It could be white, of course. You know what? You can do anything you like to the poor. You can get away with it, right? And nobody's going to complain unless you get caught on camera like that, which is unfortunate for them, right? Fortunate for the rest of us because we found out about it, right? But in upper-class neighborhoods, you're going to get in a lot of trouble. You wouldn't even dare even think about that. And, I mean, that's what sucks about it.
You know, as I was watching that, my mind wandered off to when we did stories about people who died so easily just by having their head hit against the wall. I mean, how easy it is just to hit your head somewhere, and then all of a sudden you get internal bleeding and you die, right? These cops don't understand that their force can easily kill someone without anyone even realizing it, you know, without these people knowing, like, okay, fine, I got beat up, and then a couple hours later, this guy could just die from internal bleeding in his head.
The problem is he doesn't put value on that kid's life. That's the real problem, okay? He thinks it's not about him. He's like, look, I get to enforce my power on it, right? And he gets a high off that. If he put any value on that kid's life, of course he wouldn't do that. God knows what could happen. Now I'm going to say something terrible. The face-down takedown sounds like a really badass maneuver. Like, as I was watching the end of that, I was like, look, it's not badass when a big-ass cop lives up to a 15-year-old kid, right? Special needs or otherwise, right? But I thought, face-down, takedown, that sounds pretty cool, man. That sounds like a WWE move or something. Oh, no, a face-down, takedown!
Yeah. A serious maneuver like that should not have a rhyme. Like, as soon as you make something rhyme, it's not taken seriously anymore.
No, the problem is it encourages people. Like, oh, did you do a face down takedown? Oh, hell yeah, I did a face down takedown.
Exactly. It totally belittles what the action is.
Yeah. No, look, I know from my own life. You know that when I used to watch wrestling as a kid, right? And I used to see them do the sleeper move. And how cool does the sleeper move sound, right? So I'd go and put my friends in the sleeper move. Until one day, I knocked one of them out. Knocked him unconscious. And I thought he was kidding. And so I dropped him, and he fell to the concrete and hit his head, too. I was like, oh, my God, what the hell happened?
Oh, my God. Wait, I don't even know what the sleeper is. So what does that consist of? What do you do?
You cut the blood going to his brain by putting force here, but not here, okay? So you put I shouldn't even demonstrate this. But anyway.
You could have killed your friend.
Yeah. You know why? Because I saw it in wrestling, and I thought...
And you thought it was cool.
The sleeper move, how cool is that? And I didn't think it was going to work. I thought it was bullshit wrestling. But it turns out the sleeper move works. Okay, but it cuts oxygen to your brain. Terrible idea. Don't do the sleeper move. So, and that's why I'm worried about the face-down takedown. But overall, this whole thing's terrible. And that guy that's not a cop, man. You got to fire that guy. Because that guy's way out of control. I mean, beating up on 15-year-old kids, too.
Getting fired is one thing, but I mean, that was assault right there.
Oh, no question, assault.
So do you think he deserves jail time?
Yeah, that's a vicious assault for what? For dress code violation. I'm telling you, man, I grew up in a, if I'd say, middle to upper class suburb, okay? If you did that in our school, oh, boy, you'd be in a world of trouble, man. The only reason why he wouldn't be in a world of trouble is if no one values that kid.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I don't understand. I mean, this guy wasn't worked up because of the dress code. He was just looking for any little excuse.
Of course. He'd have slammed that kid no matter what happened.
Yeah, but I went to like a hippie school. No one cared what we wore. So we got to wear whatever we wanted. And, it was a form of expression to the counselors and administrators there. And no one was doing anything crazy. I mean,
of course not.
So I think dress codes are so dumb. Like, just
look, dress codes are dumb anyway, but it doesn't matter. If you believe in a dress code, it's okay. I mean, it's a perfectly normal thing to believe in. You just can't physically assault people for the dress code. It's not even under consideration. All right, before we go to the break, JR, any thoughts on it or no? Nope. He's gonna let it slide. All right. We'll take a quick break. Young Turks.